standing for?
We are standing here because we feel that feminism has monopolised our institutions and the power that's available, and that it's silencing the 91% of women in the UK who are non-feminist.
Like us.
Yeah.
Okay. But do you not think feminism at least opens the doors and having the discussion about equality in workplaces? Because that's what I've
Not at
found.
all. I find that feminism is shutting down the doors to talking about proper equality, in which men are often disadvantaged.
Yeah.
Men aren't disadvantaged.
Men are the only sex who aren't protected from genital mutilation. They're discriminated
That's
against
true.
in family courts. They're discriminated against in quota systems. They're discriminated against in criminal justice sentencing, where they are likely to get much harsher sentences than women.
But I think if organisations take on diversity generally as an issue within the organisation, then it opens the doors to discuss about all the protected characteristics. I do take your point, because at our work we try and push for class to be recognised.
Yeah,
as
that's very important.
And that would then bring in a number of working class men in particular. But I think generally, at least I feel as a feminist that it opens the doors for those further discussions, and it's not just about women. We have to make it not just about women. That's the thing. I agree. But I, from my perspective, feminism helps with that. But obviously we agree to disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so, but my experience as a men's rights activist has been that feminists have consistently tried to shut down and silence and ignore our voices.
You do get some, but then you can't tar us all with the same brush.
Oh, absolutely, I don't.
So
I have a word for the kind of feminists who you sound like. I call them unicorn feminists.
Okay.
And I say that unicorn feminists represent what the dictionary definition of feminism is, but I find that the movement as a whole doesn't represent the dictionary definition.
Okay. Well,
Nice to talk to you. Have a lovely day. She was nice.
Because I was automatically thought that they would want the university studio would want
Knackered.
And what type of feminist, if any, should be conversating? I am not a feminist.
Can I join in?
There was no in-depth question. So, what forms of social media do you use?
Okay, Twitter. I can't remember if I use Instagram, but I'm going to make sure I am on it tonight. So let's take Instagram, Facebook, and some others. There's like Gab and Minds.
Is that GAB?
Yeah,
What was the other one, sorry?
Minds.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you know about the Me Too movement?
I would say a solid 10.
And how did you become aware of the movement?
Okay. All except TV and radio.
And in general, what's your view of the movement?
Negative.
And what type of feminist, if any, do you like?
Not a feminist.
And gender?
Female, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
monopolised by
You don't think women should have equal rights?
sure. They already have equal rights. In this country, give me an example of a right that women don't have.
Well, they haven't got the same pay for a start.
That's not a right, and that's not true.
And there's an equal pay act. We've. What about Prime Minister?
What about, yeah, well, it would be nice if we had a Prime Minister who's actually in charge of the country. We've got Theresa May.
But there's no. My point is, there's no glass ceiling, is there?
The majority of lawyers are women. The majority of teachers are women.
They are men.
Huh?
The top of the professions, they are men. How many women lawyers are in the Supreme Court?
Women have every single...
How many?
No.
Women are, they're at the top. Local legal
Women, there's nothing stopping them.
Yeah,
Absolutely
there is.
not.
That's the very point.
Give me an example of what stops them.
Right, well, I used to interview people for jobs, right, and some of my fellow interviewees would say things like, can we ask her if she's going to have a baby?
What's wrong with that?
Because I was in the teaching profession, if you knew a woman was going to have a baby, you would have a baby. Really?
I don't understand why you would want equal rights.
We do want equal rights. They already
And men too.
and men too.
If you read yesterday's Guardian, it gives you a
Can I
list.
give you an example of a right that women have and men don't?
That's the
FGM is illegal in this country.
FGM?
Yeah, it's illegal.
Yes, it's the thing that's been
Can I finish my point? But male genital mutilation, aka uterine circumcision, is illegal, but the government doesn't care because of religious reasons. It's a clear, defined, observable right that women have that men don't.
But no. It's been illegal for 14 years and nothing has been done about it. So
No one cares about.
so don't say they have a right, because the girls who are mutilated have got no rights. What are you talking about?
No, it's illegal.
It's illegal, but the people have got nothing about
No
it. I
one
mean, you
even
go to a...
recognise that male
You
circumcision
don't have
is
to
a
have a
bad thing in
law.
this
You
country.
just have to implement it.
Did you hear what I just said?
No.
Do you agree with circumcision on
Men, no.
on infant minors?
No, any
So
of them. None of them. None
Why
of them.
doesn't the campaign concentrate on both sexes?
Well, I mean, actually, you know, the
Why
point is...
doesn't the campaign?
Layla Hussein, who's here today, refuses to talk,
The
to say
mutilation
anything
of women,
about
of little girls is
MGM.
quite different. Yes, I'm answering your question. It is quite different because I've talked to women who've had it and they cannot have sex. I know many men who've been circumcised and they have a more normal sex life. So it's quite different. It's quite different. Now the point is, if there is a law, you're saying that women, girls, have got a law. You say, no, it's not in your face. I'm doing it
Making me
here.
feel very uncomfortable.
Right, well, you're making me feel very uncomfortable because you are putting that in my face. Right, well, the law is not the same. I mean, she's making the point that she's not
Have a good debate, but you don't need to paper in my face.
Hi, I'm here from City University. I'm doing a student magazine, and I was wondering if I could ask you two questions
Yeah,
that I
of
could
course.
include.
Sorry, I will just record them so I get your quotes right. So I was wondering, why are you here today? We're here representing the majority of the British population, particularly the women who are non-feminist. We feel that both Women's Day as an event and also the institutions like the media, politics, universities and academia especially are monopolised by feminists. It's not representative of how the general population feels.
How would you say that the general population feels?
I think that they want equal rights for men and women, and they don't want feminism driving a wedge between the sexes.
Okay. So what do you? Because you come to what could be called a feminist event. So what are you hoping to achieve?
Hoping to achieve some meaningful conversations and also just to make our presence felt. That we're here, we're part of the majority and we're not feminists.
Hi, could I just get your name?
Yeah, I'm Elizabeth Hobson. I'm the Director of Communications at a political party called Justice for Men and Boys and the Women Who Love Them.
Thank you so much.
Would I be able to find your article?
Yes,
when it comes
yes,
out?
absolutely. Do you want to, if you give me, if you want to type in your email,
Yeah, sure.
I can send you a link once it's up and online.
That would be fantastic. In fact, could you type it for me because I've my hands
Yeah,
full.
yeah, absolutely.
So it's Elizabeth with a Z
Elizabeth.
at J number 4.
J and number 4.
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah. MB.
NB.
MB. Sorry. .org.uk.
.org.uk.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you. I will make sure we'll pass it over to you.
Thank you.
You don't need to be a feminist to celebrate Women's Day. I can't think of a person who is not a feminist, like me. I'm not a feminist, and I have some problems with feminism quite a lot. That's why we're here, because we want people
Yeah.
to know we exist.
91% of British women are not feminists. Yeah. Of course we do. Like the majority. No means no.
Excellent. It's not just a label, you don't have to agree with the foundational theory that feminism believes. Well, there's a lot.
History is a long story of men and women working together collaboratively and progressing hand in hand. Yeah, women have been disadvantaged, but men have also been disadvantaged. And feminism throughout history has demonized men unfairly and also neglected their disadvantages. Yeah, definitely.
No, I think I see your point. You mean in the future we won't need feminism, right? We won't need
Yeah,
a label
I
feminist.
don't think we've ever needed feminism, personally. But what I mean by this is that I feel that feminism has a monopoly on the power in our institutions, politically, academically, in the media, and they need to make space for the majority of the population who are not feminists to have a voice too. Massive amounts of power.
How wonderful if that was the case.
Quite clearly, they don't represent the majority.
What power do you think that feminism needs? You know, I was on Friday, I was due to go to talks in Winchester University by men's rights activists. One was called Equal Rights for Men and Women, and one was called Gender.
I'm taking a photo.
Yeah. You're welcome.
You should draw a heart
Fatta. Vabbè, ok. Ok, I think.
We all done?
Sorry.
Okay. How many slides do you have? Because I saw this one.
We've got 6.
There's
There's
three
three
more.
more people
I-
down the other
I-
side, yeah.
No, it's not about that. I think I could agree with this one because I think I understand what you mean. In the future, we won't need the label of feminist because we will be all for gender equality. Is it right or not?
Well, you seem to be supposing that you have to be feminist to be for gender equality in your statement there, which is not something I agree with.
Is it about the label or about the proposal of the
It's about what has...
No, sorry. Let me finish this.
It's about what feminists have done in the world. It's about their opposition to shared parenting. It's about their... no, there are unicorn feminists. There are feminists who I admire.
Okay.
But they don't have institutions. Are you a feminist because you think that women are uniquely disadvantaged compared to men?
Yeah, I think some statistics
Yeah.
say it, agree, but I also think that if we, I'm not English, so I need to think twice.
That's fine. You perfectly.
A more feminine society would be better for both genders. You know what I mean? Also for us, because I think that patriarchy has an impact also on me as a man, because patriarchy is not only against women, it's also about saying to men what they have to be. As a man, I feel the pressure of being a certain kind of man, masculinity.
And do you think that comes from what? From men, other men?
No, it's the patriarchy system. You know what I mean?
So, how would you define patriarchy? How would you define patriarchy? Because I wouldn't say we lived in a patriarchy personally.
I can say basically, it's a system of values which works underneath your skin and in your mind, which tells you what is right and what is wrong to be a man or a woman. For example, I speak from my own point of view. As a man, I need to be, you say muscular, you have to be strong, you have to be powerful, leading, you have to be stoic, and you have to look at sex in a certain way, you have to treat women in a certain way, which is always a power. You see,
I would say that I don't see where feminism is going to help you with that. As personally, I'm part of the men's rights movement, and I see feminists saying, men, you need to talk about your feelings, and when men in the men's rights movement talk about their feelings, feminists come back with hashtag male tears, hashtag, masculinity so
I
fragile.
Agree with you. This is wrong, because I never liked the idea of separatism, of splitting the movement in female feminists and fake male feminists, or I don't like separatism at all. Feminism is for all genders, and that's why I define myself a feminist. Despite I don't agree with what all feminists think, because I told you, I'm not with the radical feminists, I'm not with the socialist feminists, with the separatist feminists. Still, I am a feminist. That's it.
Okay, well, it's nice to talk to you.
Yeah.
Enjoy your day.
And by the way, you have all the right to expose this. It's completely in line, and I will always defend your right to do it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Cheers.
I went with
apparently the girl who was supposed to fight
was the sister of one of the guys.
I'm happy to have a debate or discussion with you when you come out. I'll still be here, obviously. You don't need to be a feminist to celebrate Women's Day. You don't need to believe that men oppress you. You don't need Well, actually, apart from a few that men go back.
Which was a comparative study between these, like, about resource usage between
Well, I think we were going to be there and then finished, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm here for the long haul.
Hashtag non-feminist or non-feminism. Okay. Please, if you're going to put it on social media. Well, she actually did. Sorry, I'm not taking credit.
What's that?
I'm not a feminist. I don't take credit. Sorry, a little joke there.
That was a good one. I like that one.
Did you hear that woman earlier who said that masculinity was the problem, but men are not masculinity?
Yeah, just their innate natures. Just their innate nature. Yeah.
That was just amazing. Do you think the masculinity is the problem for society? No, you don't.
No.
It isn't. It is. I am a 99% minority. I feel like we're talking about Brexit now.
Can I get some picture ladies?
Of course you can.
Should we stand together? Oh, yeah.
Non-feminist. We're not feminist.
Shall we?
Hashtag not a feminist. Hashtag non-feminist. Say whatever you like about us. We don't care about hate speech.
Sorry, dear. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
What's going on?
You're working feminist. Still support women's day. And still support equal rights for men. I won't probably be very active, although there are a few things that women have that men don't.
Wait!
To their own.
I'm just like,
You don't need to be a feminist to celebrate women's day. You don't need to be a feminist to believe in equal rights.
some parts I don't like. There's some, like, there's a lot of
Someone who's not a feminist. Yeah. Simple as. No, they certainly do. The majority of the country believes in equality. They're also not feminist. According to Fawcett.
My life, don't ask me to work now. That kind of makes sense too, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, that's why we have a pay gap, because more men are more work-centred than women.
Well, I still can't get my head around it. It could be I've just got, on some level, no imagination, but I remember Mum's younger brother, all the men went into the army.
I don't know. I will say that
they're all
oppressed by the economic system.
Have you seen that all women in the US are going to have to register for the draft now?
But we're talking about when it got
Probably
started.
he was sent to a military school for misbehaviour, so it could be something's hardwired in there.
Well, no, it wasn't Trump actually. It was actually a Texan court. They were taken, you know, the legislation was taken to court, and they said that it was discrimination and anti-equality, because they've got equality legislation as well, and the Supreme Court agreed that it was discrimination against men.
A lot to do, I think if someone's head on their body,
couldn't even get a bank account.
It could be that's
they belong to their.
I mean, they're never going to use it anyway, but the thing is that, you know, as it stands, men who don't sign up for the draft.
Once there's a precedent for something, it's like the doctors, if they don't set to virus, they'll call it something disease. It's as though they've filed it down somewhere, so anyone else like that.
I'm going to have a vape. I said I'm going to have a vape, you've persuaded me.
What?
I'm going to have a vape because you're smoking, it makes me...
Oh, vape?
Yeah.
I've been doing examples, so
I've got one somewhere, but I just don't use it for it.
A woman is bored.
Yeah, well, you know,
the first time I tried something, didn't agree. It's a bit like yours, I mean, it's got a little glass window, so I can tell when it's running out.
Yeah, I did it for my sons, and it takes the edge off.
It can do. I mean, if you use them right, it's like an alternative to smoking. Sometimes you can vape where you can't smoke.
So somehow you
but
say that
the other thing, within
are oppressed.
2 weeks of working,
I'm not saying that.
it was like a sports all like
With
and
all due
2/3
respect,
of it was just banned smoke. I thought, well, I'm smoking anyway, I might as well start. So I kept on thinking when I was like, which is great, they're letting me do this. And I'd choose American-based companies so I could. But now it's not just supermarkets and doctors who can't smoke, you can't smoke anyway.
I know. I find it very uncivilized actually.
Smoking?
No, the fact that we're not allowed to. Yeah. It's authoritarian.
But the thing is, what people would say didn't smoke in the office is you're making me smoke when I don't want to because I'm breathing in your secondary smoking. So you've got this thing where either I can't smoke in my life,
but I mean,
or all the people in the same room as me can't. Here, if it was designated one room with an aircon, and no one else was in the room, I could smoke because it wouldn't affect me. It just went outside. I mean, it drove the maintenance people bonkers because of all the dust. But in, I think it was the 30s or the 20s or the 40s, the amount of people smoking in the cinema, it totally stopped the ventilation system. They'd have to invent interesting filtering devices.
I have got those filtering devices. They have smoking booths.
Like,
No, I mean you can.
Maybe
you think
dear.
They were smoking. Like they'll probably run out of hot food down there.
Oh, I hope not.
Either that or I have to be a bit less choosy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely don't feel comfortable with that. Sorry. Well, I'm glad they listened to both sides.
Yeah.
See you later.
See you later. Thanks. Have a nice day.
Like supremacy, it's kind of way of thinking. I don't know, you have to really misguide it.
Do you think that when the patriarchal society
since neoliberalism, more or less problem.
Do you think only men
There is a couple more as well.
Women are the weak gender, supposed to provide and to fight the war and children.
And yes, pushing out of their lives, you know, and
It's a paradox.
I mean, before women had the vote, women were privileged in the criminal justice system, and so they got much lighter sentences. Again, feminists are campaigning for more favourable treatment of women. You know, I mean, you know how the government's now taken a new approach to women in prison, and they're going to try, they scrapped the plans to build new women's prisons, and instead they're going to build community hubs to give women support to stay in their homes and rehabilitate themselves, which is fantastic. But why not for the 95% of the prison population who are men?
I mean, look at the stats. I mean, who is who's dying? Who's being killed by most of the time as their own partners? Most of the times are in, especially, I mean, I'm talking because I maybe don't know the situation in the UK that much, but in Spain, have you? I don't know. Take a look about the numbers in Spain, how many people have been killed every year. I don't know exactly. You know how you sound? Did you know? I don't know. But back in the day when the suffragettes were, fighting for the right to vote, there were some women that they were against. There were women that were against the women voting.
Yeah, but I mean, the suffragettes themselves were against working class men and women voting.
I think that you are in the wrong side of history, you want. But I don't know. I mean, I respect your point of view.
Let history define history.
Sorry?
Let history define it for itself. Why do we have to say right side?
No, I'm saying my point of view. No, I mean, obviously we don't agree, but it's up to you. I mean, it's all right.
Thanks for talking to us, yeah.
And you are Fawcett Society, but
we're not from the Fawcett Society. No, this is from their report.
They are the
yeah.
Fawcett Society.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, what's the name of your organization?
We're the Women's Liberation Network. Yeah. Nah, it's like your bag, yeah.
Everything feminist, like all feminists. Well, yeah, I agree with that. But I would say someone who has, in like views that are kind of against men, I would never even describe them as feminist.
Yeah, but I mean, if they describe them,
I think if they are against men, that's not feminism. That is female supremacy. Well, I would say that's just a true Scotsman fallacy because they obviously are feminists. They may not be the same as you, they may obviously have different views, but I would say feminism does exclude people because of their particular beliefs. I mean, if you say
what type of feminism?
Men deserve equal treatment, it's like we do believe in treating men equal, but where is their but?
Yeah, I mean, there is no central authority in feminism that dictates what is and what isn't feminism. So if someone identifies as a feminist and groups identify as feminist groups, you have to take their word from it.
You have rad fems, you have so many different factions that there are no one true feminist. Yeah, exactly.
So you have to judge the movement based on its...
With every movement, people have different definitions of feminism.
Mm.
And obviously feminism was very different in the past. And but I would say it's modern feminism that I take issue with. Yeah.
I take issue with all feminism.
I think in some areas feminists, I think some of them are going too far, but I don't think that disqualifies everything feminism has done for
I personally, there are certain feminists who I do respect and I value their contribution to the discussion. However, none of them have institutional power. The kind of feminists that have institutional power, like the politicians and like Women's Aid and like the majority of the media, are all spreading some really heinous misinformation and also pushing for legislation that discriminates against men.
Mainstream feminism pushes the idea that historically only women were oppressed, when I would say all people were oppressed just by their circumstances. And like their social background. And I agree with that. But I think
yeah.
it's kind of hard to deny that it was like if you look at men and women, more women were oppressed than men.
See,
that's the
thing. I would.
They push the idea that women always had it worse and still have it worse. Where I think we all have our issues and they don't need to be gendered. A lot of the time the same issue affects men and women in different ways.
Yeah, and I agree, and I do think, and I think there are some areas where, you know, men, for example, I think there's not enough discussion on things like men, you know, the suicide rates of men, and that kind of thing. And I think, I kind of view that as something that can be part of the feminist movement rather than, and so instead, and I know the word, I mean, I did a whole talk on like the word feminism and like whether that helps the movement or actually hinders it, because, you know, obviously it's already, the word fem automatically makes it one-sided, but then I think I don't see why we can't talk about like gendered issues and things like toxic masculinity and men kind of not being able to, like, you know, express their.
I was going to mention along those lines because I kind of felt like that's the way it was going, but feminism, I would say, blames men for their own issues, because like you said, oh, men don't talk, we need to encourage men to talk about their issues, and it's like, yeah, that's laudable, but also men express themselves differently, and so why not encourage men to express themselves the way they naturally express themselves rather than encouraging them to express themselves the way women do?
How can we know what's the natural way of them expressing themselves if it's like we live in
Well, we do. There's plenty of research that shows that men open up and heal.
Men, say, do a physical activity together, then afterwards they are more likely to open up because they have bonded through that activity. Rather than just sit on a sofa and say, tell me what's wrong, they're not open.
Yeah, there's also evidence that shows that when, you know, men are in therapy, for example.
And like open up to almost anybody. Like I could sit down and talk to you about what issues when I was a child or whatever, but men aren't open in that same kind of way. And there is studies and research that shows men who take part in, that's why I think male retreats are a good thing. You know, they go off maybe into like forest for a weekend and bond that way through physical activity, and then they are able to then sit around and discuss their actual issues.
I completely reject the idea that feminism can be part of that as well, to be honest, because, you know, when men go online and open up about their feelings, you know, they get told that their masculinity is fragile and that this is male tears, and that, by the way, you know, there's nothing more disgusting than seeing a man cry.
Fragile masculinity is when they I think fragile masculinity is more when people say someone is big, like is showing that. It's more because, you know, you've said something that kind of offends them in like in a more political way, not in like an emotional sense. If they're opening up about, you know, their childhood and things that have happened to them, that kind of thing, you wouldn't call that fragile masculinity. You'd call something where, you know, you call a man up on it and he gets all offended on something more political. I think that.
Yeah, like for example, how men feel about the Gillette ad or something like that.
The what?
The Gillette advert.
Oh yeah, I haven't
you know.
watched that, but I've heard. And so, wait, I'm quite interested to hear how, because obviously, like, I still view myself as a feminist, but I want to know how you guys switched from. You both said you used to be feminist.
Yeah. I would say the big thing for me, I was always believed that obviously sexism affects men and women, and I would never say, oh, I'd say I would never say, but at the time I did kind of believe that sexism affected women more because that's what feminism pushes. But then I would say, I was reading, is it Everyday Sexism or Everyday Feminism? I think it's Everyday Feminism, prominent feminist webpage, media, and I was reading through it, and they basically tried to argue that men can't be victims of sexism whatsoever. It's this idea that because women have been historically oppressed, they are the only victims of sexism, and anything against men isn't the same for some reason. And just while I was a feminist while I was reading that, and I was just like, no, I really had a really strong disagreement with it.
I would read that too, but and disagree. I would disagree with that.
And that kind of sparked something, and then it was just
sparked
more,
further investigation.
More further investigation. And then it's quite funny. I would say Milo Yiannopoulos played a big part in me abandoning my feminist views. I heard a lot of talk about him, you know, oh, he says this, that and the other, he's racist, sexist, misogynist, whatever, you know, all the names under the sun. And I'd never seen anything of him, so I thought, let me just look into this guy. And so I started watching a few of his videos. I was like, he's a bit flamboyant, he's a bit like pushing the boundaries, but he's not saying anything that's incorrect, and he's not saying anything not so spiteful, not vindictive, but just, you know, enough to wake you up, enough to like.
Well, he certainly doesn't advocate for men to be treated more favourably than women, does he? He doesn't advocate for men to be treated more favourably than women.
No. But it was like a combination of a bit of everything, and it was also during the 2016 elections, you know, when Trump was elected. It was kind of a bit of a wake-up call, you know, everyone's just saying, oh, everything's racist, everything's sexist, everything's homophobic, and it's like, you're not really looking at the issue, you're just labelling it as such and then dismissing it, rather than actually listening to the other side.
I agree with that. I think there's a huge issue currently where, you know, we're very quick to label things and then dismiss it. And I, like, you know, at my school's feminist society, there was actually a huge problem with that, and we actually, I kind of went in and I was like, okay, we need to rebrand this completely, because boys would be like scared to come and that kind of thing, and they'd be called sexist and then they'd be shut down. They wouldn't be allowed to express anything. And I think, you know, shutting down debate is like the worst thing you can do, because, you know, there's the only way to, personally, I think, because otherwise you're just preaching to the converted, and I think you want to involve guys in the debate as well. There are so many like gendered issues that affect men as well. I do still think that I think women on the whole do experience more sexism generally, but that's not to say that men don't experience it at all. I think there's plenty of crap for them going on as well.
I think there's a great quote from, I think it's Karen Strong, about how we've been conditioned to see misogyny everywhere where it doesn't exist, but then we're so blind to misandry that even when it hits us over the head with a hammer, we're oblivious to it.
No, and I do totally see that, and I think there are definitely some areas where, you know, that can be worked on as well. But I don't. For me, these reasons aren't big enough to completely disqualify the whole feminist movement. I think there are wings of the feminist movement that have gone too far, and I do disagree with them. But I also think that it is, like, if you're kind of a moderate feminist.
But I think their group is not just against modern feminism. I thought you are against like all of.
There's a mix. We're just non-feminists. Okay. I personally, I actually call myself an anti-feminist, and I don't see.
In between, like, some days I'm like, not anti, because there are some good aspects to it. There are still some feminists who, say like Christina Hobson, what did she call herself?
The factual feminist?
She calls herself factual feminist, but I think she
calls equity feminist. Well done, Tom.
So rather than pushing the idea of like women, she does
women, men.
Yeah. I do think she's a lot more fair than most.
You have like resulted in thinking that, like,
but then she gets labelled.
Is it to do with like how you grew up or where you grew up, or?
Well, I mean, I was raised by a single mother with very pro-feminist views, and then I started getting more interested in feminism, and I started seeing more and more things that I was not comfortable with. So, feminists harassing kind of glamour models, and, you know, prostitutes and people like that, women like that, and going after their jobs. You know, like they did take away the jobs of the grid girls and the walk-on girls in darts, and I saw feminists saying that, you know, men couldn't be feminists because they couldn't possibly relate to women's experiences. And I completely disagree with that. I think we're all human and we can all, you know, empathise with each other's struggles. You know, and if you're an equality movement, how can you not allow half of the population in based on their, you know, sex? And there was, you know, I remember seeing a group of feminists all agreeing that the worst women in the world were women like solicitors who defended rapists in court. And I was like, well, hang on, you know, you can't assume that all these men are rapists. There are false accusations, and you know, maybe even if they are rapists, you know, they still deserve representation in court. And maybe these women do it not because they're, you know, they said these women were happy to stand on the graves of other women in order to make money. I said maybe they believe in the law.
What I'm kind of interested in, if you say that, then does it impact, like, yes, I understand you all, you know, you believe in the things and you have the theories, but in the way you actually like live your day-to-day life, does that have any effect on like how you, like, I mean,
well,
like,
I do have 2 sons.
Oh.
And, you know, I certainly do worry about them. My main concern is that they might, you know, one day not be able to see their children because the family courts are really ideological and they routinely deprive men who are perfectly good fathers of access to their children. You know, and I think that is most, having spoken to a lot of men, that's their biggest fear. And that's the thing that hurts them the most, and they say they would go through any torture to be able to see their children.
And being falsely accused is no joke either. So
No.
your name gets dragged through the mud and you can't go to the same places that you used to go to. So, and if you found not guilty, no one would believe you anyway.
I definitely see where you're coming from, and I agree with a lot of things you said. I'm just, because I had like sort of an argument with her about, because she said that your whole group is against like the history of feminism rather than feminism itself right now. Which, like, if you ask me, I'd say I don't like the modern type of feminism, or the fourth or the third wave or whatever. But I think that what happened in like the 20th century was quite great for feminism.
Yeah, I mean, you know, of course I'm in favour of women having the vote, but the way in which feminists went about it, you know, if you look at the Seneca Falls Declaration, which was the pioneering kind of text in first wave feminism, it's basically a list of grievances that men have done this to women, men have done that to women. And actually, you know, at the time, men were disadvantaged in various ways as well. It doesn't say anything about that. You know, actually at the time, there were men involved in the suffrage movement, and they don't say anything about that either. If you look at, you know, the suffragettes.
But I think what they would have been talking about, they would have been talking about kind of the historical oppression of women given that kind of, not like the current state of feminism, but rather like, you know, throughout centuries this has been the case that men have decided what goes on in society and women don't get a choice in that. And now it's the point
agreed, but I mean, they were very much talking about an apex of men. Most working class men had absolutely no political voice.
Yeah, but
they literally didn't have the vote.
No, fair enough. But I mean, they weren't necessarily. I mean, while not recognizing that their movement should be exclusive for like working class men, I think that what they did was good in terms of opposing the kind of established kind of political like elite and political institutions that were repressing not only them but also the working class men. So in a way, wouldn't you say that that sort of feminism resulted in positive changes for both women and working class men?
No, I wouldn't really, to be honest. I mean, I think the universal suffrage movement was the instrumental one. If you look, the reason the March for Women is being held here is because this is where the suffragettes used to meet. Yeah. Now the suffragettes, they wanted votes for women on the same terms as men, which means that only wealthy, propertied women would have had the vote, not working class men, not working class women. And they actually stopped campaigning for the vote with the outbreak of World War I, so 4 years before women got the vote. And that was, you know, the reason women and the working classes got the vote was due to the kind of behind the scenes quiet lobbying of the universal suffrage movement, not the violence of the suffragettes, which if anything would have put back the date that women did get the vote, because obviously a government can't be seen to cave into terrorism. You know, they were committing arson, they were posting letter bombs.
That shouldn't happen, and that's not alright to do that. But
we might have to move slightly.
It was great talking to you. We'll probably.
Nice to meet you both. Take care.
We kind of knew.
Yeah.
We've been around for a while.
Could be better weather for it, but you know.
You can find me on the internet. You can find the stuff on the
Yeah, that's true.
I remember last March, we're going to have a goal. It'd be nice to go. And basically, if we hadn't given up where we did, we'd be either be stuck on Bolton Hill or somewhere else, but I just knew between the place in Cornwall and Plymouth there'd be at least 2 stretches where nothing was done.
Thanks, Richard. Do you want to chuck it in my bag?
I think so. Elizabeth?
Darling?
We would have got thrown out if we got in.
Would we? I don't know, but I didn't want to, well, we weren't allowed, no one was allowed in with signs, but I didn't want to fund feminism. I said I didn't want to fund feminism by buying a ticket personally.
Yeah, that's another point.
Yeah, it seems like it's illegal in Brisbane as well. I
It's
agree.
all right, the banners in the building, but we've got
Yeah.
to draw the line somewhere else. You get all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Well, no one would be able to bloody see anyway, would they, if there were people holding banners up?
Bonked by something, and then you have a health and safety.
Yeah.
Well, you either have a health and safety, or they get annoyed about the bonk and all kinds of stuff. We have to be careful with sticks.
Yeah.
Sticks are okay, but not
He
umbrellas.
works here, he's confirmed. Do you think we would have got thrown out if we'd have brought these inside?
We've got to sort of let